Today I want to talk about a shy girl. Actually, I want to talk about the book Shy Girl and the giant controversy going on right now around that book and its author and the alleged use of AI in its creation. So stick around and let's dig in. Hey there, welcome to the channel, or welcome back if you've been here before. I'm glad you're here. My name is John Hartness. I'm the founder and publisher of Falstaff Books, the creator of the Saga Genre Fiction Writing Conference, and the author of over 40 novels, including The Black Knight Chronicles, Bubba the Monster Hunter, and Quincy Harker Demon Hunter. And I am also, if you've been on this channel for any length of time, staunchly against the use of generative AI in the creation of books. I don't think you should use generative AI to write your books. I don't think you should use it to edit your books. I don't think you should use it to make covers for your books. So, what do I have to say about Shy Girl? I have a lot, and some of it might surprise you given how staunchly anti-AI I am. But let's start off with, what are you talking about, Uncle Johnny? What is Shy Girl? Shy Girl is a horror novel that was published last year in the UK by an imprint of Hachette. It was first self-published. The author's name is Mia Ballard, and it sold quite well. And Hachette picked this up for the beginnings of their new horror line, which I can't remember the name of, and really, who cares? Imprints are a dime a dozen. But this was a self-published book that had sold well and been well received and reviewed, and Hachette bought the book. And they put it out last year in the UK. And the book sold pretty well. I'll be honest with you, I don't know what good sales numbers are for a horror novel in the UK, but it sold 18,000 copies roughly, according to reports, and that was enough for Hachette's imprint in the US, Orbit, to put it on their calendar for this year. Until people decided that there was generative AI used in the creation of the book. Now, there had been rumors and reports and accusations of the use of generative AI in the book from the moment it hit the streets. It was all over Reddit, it was all over social media, that the author had used generative AI to help write the book. So there were always accusations that Ballard had used AI in writing the book. And I don't know if she had ever made any statements admitting or refuting these accusations. But when the book was published and then announced for release in the US, more internet sleuths jumped on and people started running it through AI analyzers. And the first one, Pangram, came back saying it was 73% likely that the book was AI generated. And it plucked out specific phrases that it said showed the use of AI or showed the earmarks of AI use. And a lot of this comes from a New York Times article that I'll link down in the description, and you can read it all yourself. So when I saw this, I thought, okay, well, these AI detectors, are they any good? Then I saw a Facebook post from a friend of mine that said, well, I ran my book through it. My book that was published before ChatGPT was a thing. And it said that I had over a 70% use of AI in my book. And I said, wow, okay, well, if these detectors aren't infallible, what does it say about my books? So I took Scattered, Smothered, and Chunked, and I ran it through 3 AI detectors, all free ones. The first one, I was a Pangram, which was one of the ones I used the 3 that were cited in the Times article. I went for the same exact one. So I loaded the entire book, the first Bubba the Monster Hunter book, which was originally published, I don't know, 2011, 2012. Needless to say, before ChatGPT or any of these current AI generation tools were available. And Pangram, I loaded the entire book into it, and Pangram said that it was 66% likely that that book was written with artificial intelligence. My friend Rob on Facebook, once when I posted this, said, I can guarantee that no intelligence, artificial or otherwise, was used in the creation of Bubba the Monster Hunter. Well, Rob, you're right. I did not use any artificial intelligence in creating Bubba the Monster Hunter or any of my work. So I thought, well, maybe this was just a bad result from Pangram. So I ran it through, what's that one called? GPT-0. Now, GPT-0 had a character limit of 50,000 characters unless I signed up for their service. I did not sign up for their service, so I was limited to 50,000 characters. So I ran the first short story through their service. And they said that there was a 45% chance that I had used generative AI to write Voodoo Child, the first Bubba the Monster Hunter short story. Again, I did not. I did not use any generative AI. Then I ran it through originality.ai. Their sample size is much, much smaller, 12,000 characters, unless you're going to sign up for their service. But across a small sample size, only 12,000 characters, which is about a third or a quarter of that story, Originality AI had the correct ratio because it said I had used 0 generative AI in the creation of the story. Now, this is not me apologizing for Mia Ballard because I don't know Mia Ballard. I've never met the woman as far as I'm aware. And if she did use generative AI, then she deserves to have her contract killed and get out of my industry. But if you're using these AI checkers to decide what is and isn't written with artificial intelligence, it's important to understand that AI was trained on our fiction. Now, obviously, it wasn't trained on Shy Girl because Shy Girl was published well after AI companies had built their large language models or language learning, whatever the hell an LLM stands for. But Bubba was absolutely scraped to train AI. And my other friend's book was absolutely scraped to train AI because they were out and they've shown up in some of the databases where you can search to see if your book was stolen. Mine were. So if the AI programs were trained on our books, running our books through the AI detection programs are going to come up with red flags. The red flag for me, however, in all 3 of these AI detector programs was that every one of them had a button right there that said humanize. Yeah, the AI detection software had a feature using AI to make your work sound less like AI. Sometimes I feel like I live in the absolute worst possible timeline. Sometimes I think living in the future is cool, like when I tap to pay for something or someone taps to pay me. That that part of living in the future is cool. Indoor plumbing, high-speed internet, refrigeration, vaccines, not having polio, all of these things are awesome parts of living in the future. And then generative AI comes along, and the tool that you are supposed to use to detect your AI is using AI to help you avoid the detection programs. Oy vey. So, Ballard has denied using generative AI in the creation of Shy Girl. She has said that she believes that a friend who she hired to edit the book used AI and she did not know it. I have a lot of problems with this story, and there are a lot of people that I want to just shake a little bit, and a few that I want to shake a whole lot. Ms. Ballard, if you handed your book to an editor and they used generative AI to rewrite chunks of your book, that's not an edit. That's a rewrite, and your editor should not be making these massive substantive changes to your book that require them to use generative AI. They should be tweaking a word here, a word there, and making big sweeping notes in the comments or making big sweeping notes in a separate document. But they should not be rewriting blocks of text, ever. Fault one, the editor. You're overstepping. You're doing too much to a book that ain't going to have your name on the cover. Fault two, to the editor. You should not have used generative AI. Stop it. Bad editor. No biscuit. Fault number three, to Ms. Ballard. You let someone rewrite your book and then you self-published your book without going through every flippin' word of it at least once, preferably 3 or 4 times? What the hell's wrong with you? So this book went out into the world with, oh, I don't know, maybe somebody edited it and did bad things. No, your name's on the cover. You're responsible. You do not get to pass the buck to your friend or your editor who you hired. You are responsible for making sure that the words inside that book are yours. Fault number 4, Hachette's UK imprint. What moron bought a self-published book and didn't run it back through your typical editorial process? Please, who is this idiot? Because you can't do that. You, as a publisher and an acquiring editor at the publisher and a content editor at the publisher, are responsible for making sure that the book is good. And here's a spoiler, kids. If there's still AI-generated garbage in your prose, it ain't good. And if some internet sleuth on Reddit can find out in 15 minutes, oh, this is obviously AI, then it wasn't even good AI. So they're the ones I want to shake really hard, because Hachette UK completely dropped the ball. Oh, and by the way, fault number 5, back to Mia Ballard, because in every publishing contract I've ever seen or heard of, there's a clause that says that the author asserts that they are the original creator of the entire text. You're saying you wrote every flippin' word. And if you used generative AI in the creation of your book, you are lying. Hello, Gandalf. Come over here and say hello to people. They've missed you. Someone even asked for a Gandalf supercut video. What do you think about that? Gandalf just turned his head around and gave me the biggest death stare when I said supercut, because I think he thinks I mean a trim. And it is getting warm here in North Carolina, but I am not giving my big floofy baby any kind of crazy lion cut. I promise. You're going to stay floofy forever, baby boy. Wow, he didn't run away yet. Ooh, he's laying right here. Good boy, my sweetie. Anyway, Ms. Ballard, you signed a contract where you asserted that every word of that book is yours. And if you used generative AI or passed through changes that your editor made using generative AI, then you lied on your contract and you're officially in breach and your contract's null and void. Oh, and by the way, your book can't be copyrighted. There is not yet case law saying what amount of a book can be created using generative AI and still be protected under US copyright law. Sorry, cat hair. But I'm sure it's coming. And then, look, I got more shaking because Orbit/Hachette US needs to be taken out to the woodshed too, because they just trusted everybody else in the process. They didn't go through the book. They just said, oh, this thing sold a lot of self-published copies. It sold pretty well in the UK. We'll publish it too. Yay, us. Here's my other question, and this is the cynical part of me that says, if that book had sold 180,000 copies in the UK instead of 18,000, do you think Orbit would have canceled the publication of it? Because I don't trust them to do that. What happens if, and I am working under the absolute assumption that she did not, what if Rebecca Yarros used AI to write Fourth Wing? Ain't nobody gonna stop publishing another sequel to Fourth Wing. I have no idea if another sequel to Fourth Wing is coming. I've read the first one and half of the second one, and we've talked about that. The miscommunication trope drives me crazy, so I stopped reading it. I've heard the third one is really good, though, so if you like romantasy, check it out. Anyway, I don't trust Orbit to have pulled the plug if this book had sold 100,000 copies in the UK, or even 50,000 copies. So there's plenty of fault to go around in this shy girl case. The editor doesn't deserve the name if they use generative AI for their edits. The author doesn't deserve the name if they allowed their book to go to press with generative AI used in it. The publisher doesn't deserve the name if they are snookered by a book that's all over Reddit as being flagged for potential AI use, and they didn't even read it. They didn't go through it with a fine-tooth comb. Come on. I know that the editorial staff at New York publishers has been decimated in past years, but that's because y'all don't want to pay nobody. That's on you. So what do we do? As authors, as readers, as lovers of books, what do? We don't make baseless accusations of use of AI based on some stupid scanning tool that says it's 66% likely that a book I wrote 15 years ago was written using generative AI, which it obviously wasn't. I don't even know when ChatGPT was created, but I had never heard of it until a few years ago. And I certainly had never heard of it in 2011, and I've never used it for anything I've ever published. I have played around with it. I've generated some BS stuff off prompts to see what it comes up with. I'm never going to publish any of that, and I don't have a paid account to any generative AI service. But we don't make baseless accusations. If a human being who's familiar with generative AI goes through a book and says, these are the things I think are AI, like people who go through book covers and say, this is why this is AI. Show me that. Don't show me some AI report that is trying to sell me a service to beat AI detectors. Don't show me a report from that. That's obviously skewed and stupid information gathering. It was stupid of the Times to run that. They should know better. That's obviously flawed data because they have a vested interest in telling you that the thing you're putting through it looks like it was written with AI, so they sell the service to humanize your text. But how do we fight this? How do we deal with the encroachment of generative AI in our spaces? We don't stop reading. We can't stop reading. We love books. You're not watching this channel because I'm cute. You're watching this channel because you love books and you love writing. I am cute, but that's not why you come to this channel. So we're not going to stop reading. We're not going to stop buying books, but we are going to shift our focus toward creators that pledge not to use generative AI in any part of their process. Falstaff Books has it in our contract that our authors do not use generative AI in the creation of their books, and we do not use generative AI in the editing or in the cover creation for our books. I would put in there other ways that we don't use generative AI, but I don't know what other ways we would use it. I don't pay a whole lot of attention researching what it can do because I don't like it. So if you know what else I should put in the contract that we won't do, leave it in the comments. I'm not promising to incorporate it into our contract, but I'm promising to read the comment. We make sure that we're patronizing real creators. We make sure we're patronizing small creators. My marketing director and I spent most of Heroes Con last summer walking the show floor, meeting comic creators and artists so that we can expand our stable of cover artists. Because if I know someone is a real person and I've met them and spoken to them and have, in some cases, known them for several years, well, then I trust them not to use generative AI in creation of their covers. So as an author, find a real cover artist. I know some of you are going to say, but it's too expensive. It's not that expensive. You can find real cover artists that cost very little more than photo manipulation cover artists. I promise. I buy a lot of book covers. And what I'm learning is that it is only a little more, it's only usually a couple $100 more to buy a bespoke cover from a real artist. So you can do it because I can do it. And we're not some massive corporation. I'm a guy shooting YouTube videos in his living room. So what we do is we stay vigilant. Going to Reddit and screeching about, oh, this is obviously AI because there's an M dash. Well, that doesn't get you anywhere because I love my M dashes. I think they're just like commas and garlic, should be sprinkled liberally through everything. It's not an indication that I'm a generative AI or a bot. It's an indication that I'm old and I like to interrupt thought processes in my text. That's not the way to fight this. The way to fight this is with your wallet. If you can determine that something is made with generative AI, tell your friends. Put it in a review. Don't blast it on Reddit. Okay, or blast it on Reddit, whatever. I'm not your dad. I promise I'm not your dad. So all we can do is continue to do our work the best we can and as ethically as we can. That's all we got. So, and that's all I got. So if you have stuck with me for 25 minutes now, you should give this video a like. You should make sure you're subscribed. If you want to see your name on the wall with all these cool people, after you've subscribed, you can become a member, and then you'll get to see my videos a little early, and you'll help out the channel. And leave me a comment on what you think we should do to fight the encroachment of generative AI in our creative spaces. And if your answer is nothing, it's here, and just live with it, well, I'm probably going to delete your comment. So know that going in, and how about you don't waste either of our time. Till next time, and boy, I got to go to bed soon because I have to get up. I have to be back at the show at 9 a.m. tomorrow, and because it's in town, I'm not in the convention hotel. So, yay me. Till next time, bye.